In just a moment, we're going to talk about amateur sleuthing. It's a growing trend, and I've never used the word poo jogger on this station before, but it is apparently due to the poo jogger.
Richelle Hunt on ABC Radio Melbourne.
Well, Simon Smith is a well-known cyber investigator, over 20 years' experience in everything from looking into fake bank accounts, internet stalking, hacking, online grooming and scamming. But just recently, Simon has noticed a trend in everyday people taking investigation into their own hands, amateur sleuthing. And it may have been very similar to the group of individuals in a particular street in Brisbane that took action into their own hands to try and catch the poo jogger, in which they did. Simon Smith, I don't really want to use that term ever again, but welcome to Afternoons.
Hi, pleased to meet you.
Amateur sleuthing, like what we saw in the community in Brisbane to get this gentleman that was defecating in their streets, they did a little amateur sleuthing and they found the solution. Are we seeing a rising trend in this particular style or activity?
Well, Richelle, I think we definitely are. We're getting smarter. Technology is getting cheaper. It's more low cost, it's accessible, it's efficient. And I think that people are actually getting more developed in what's available to them with their smart devices. Like, we're getting access to our smart homes remotely, so we're being able to monitor our homes and getting alerts when somebody walks past our front door, and monitoring our babysitters, for instance. And people are sort of a bit curious now. Now, there's some good parts and bad parts to all of that, but in this particular situation, this person, it was a very funny incident, I suppose, but in this situation, this person was within their right to fill their own backyard, and they actually, they caught the person out.
What are the risks when it comes to amateur sleuthing and knowing what you can and can't do, both legally but also ethically?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do a lot of stalking cases, and ultimately there are fine lines between what you can and can't film and what you can and can't record when it comes to audio and surveillance. It is an offence to put any person under surveillance, but when it's in your own property, and if you're recording a conversation, it changes between states, but usually you can actually record a conversation without the consent of the other party if you're a party to the conversation in most states, but you can't use it in a court or in any particular situation. Like, you can't publish it anywhere. But it's a very fine line. I wouldn't advise it, but people are entitled to go out and get, it's something called something different in each state, but they're entitled to get an intervention order against you for stalking or harassment. But what I'm finding mostly is that people are spying, and it's so much easier now with Apple and the digital forensics that I do with iPhones and Androids, to actually not even try, and you really pretty much know where everybody is, and the distrust that occurs with family relationships is quite enormous. You kind of almost spying on your partners and your children, and it opens up a can of worms in family lawsuits and things like that.
Well, you must have seen this change dramatically in the 20 plus years that you've been working within cyber investigation. You would have seen a huge change in just what we do, what we find acceptable, spit it out, Rish, and just the technology that we have available around us all the time.
Exactly, and we hear about all these data breaches that are going on, and that's pretty much one of the repercussions, because people are the problem, humans. And a lot of people put their trust in other humans. They might get called up over the phone, and they might be given a really good opportunity. But ultimately, technology plays a part, but we're still humans, and people mislead humans. And unfortunately, platforms like Facebook that promote, having friends online, and Twitter, that they tend to make you think that you're sort of being somewhat private when you're not, and unfortunately people abuse that trust, and it's very easy for an investigator like myself or somebody else to actually put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I've caught scammers who have scammed people of over $20 million and $30 million by simple little trails that they've left behind in social media. So there's some benefits and some drawbacks to it. Even little things that are really scary, like children's toys. I've researched children's toys that are, hackable by Bluetooth, where you can access them from out the front of the house,
But how is hackable by who? I mean, who's putting these devices in children's toys? What kind of twisted individual?
Well, it could be just a bug, you see.
Right.
The cheaper things get, you see, if you're importing toys at low standard and everyone's rushing to market very quickly, and you have, like, for instance, a mother or a father with an AVO against them, and they're out the front and they're talking to their child and saying, come out the front, can you, for a few seconds, that's quite a dangerous situation. I've done some cult cases where, in fact, people have been actually inducted by Facebook.
The mind boggles.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff.
So what kind of reaction do you get from law enforcement, from police, from officials when it comes to just, I guess, a rising trend in amateur sleuthing and people wanting to take the law into their own hands? It must be frustrating and slightly dangerous all at the same time.
That's a really good question. And I have to be honest with you, I think that they're a little bit backwards in this particular situation, and they're not ready for that at the moment, Richelle. I think that their sort of traditional security with police, they're more interested in seeing something and looking at something happening in real time, like if somebody's getting bashed up or somebody's getting attacked. It's very hard for them to actually put their fingers on something that might have happened online. I've recently had a success in a case I did where I found somebody who gave a death threat through a PDF, and I was able to track that, and that was quite a good find for the police.
I mean, I just think morally too, there's so many questions that get raised. I mean, some text now coming in saying all the high fences and gates with keypads and videos are everywhere, but now we're starting to intrude onto the street as well. Surely that must be wrong. And this saying if you record conversations without consent, it's pretty hard to use without breaking the law. And this saying this is all just paranoia. Have you noticed over the last couple of decades within this industry that we have become, well, not just paranoid, but we feel a sense of ownership, or we believe that we have a right to know, to record, to have access to anything and everything that we see fit?
Absolutely. People take it too far. They don't know where the line is. They come to me and they said that they've done all these things and that they've, recorded their wife or their partner, or even workplaces, they said that, I've been monitoring my employee, do this, this and this, and all this, I have to tell them that, well, that's illegal and I can't continue working for you. And, people don't realise where the line is. And unfortunately, that's an educational sort of issue that they need to find out.
Well, this text saying we're forced to take the law into our own hands because police and council are too busy to help us. Well, it's a fascinating conversation. Simon Smith, cyber investigator. Thank you so much for joining us on Afternoons.
You're welcome.
1300 222 774. You can text 0437 774 774. Is this something that you felt that you had to do? Have you added CCTV cameras? Have you got together with people in your local community? Have you done some kind of amateur sleuthing, and why? Was there a reason why you felt like you wanted to take it into your own hands, or that you wanted to get with your locals and your neighbours and try and solve whatever the problem may be in your area? Do you feel safer? Or does it make you feel like you're being watched? 1300 222 774, and you can text 0437 774 774. Have you taken amateur sleuthing into your own hands, and what effect has that had on your community and your household?